So you did touch on the behavioral change. So if we want that to happen, how can AI help there in that regard?
Um, well, I'll rewind a little bit to the very early days of COVID. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the kind of work we were doing because I think it it's it expands into the conversation today about how we leverage technology, how we leverage AI. Um, at that time, so let's say 2018, 2019, we were doing so much work in taking e-learning that had been built, but that wasn't sufficiently effective. So there was a period of time in the mid 2010s and into the 2020s where everybody was making e-learning from all of their live stuff. And why? Because it's infinitely scalable. And once you've built it, it can be evergreen. And we get data. We have all these analytics. There's a learning management system on every corner. And that was it was an important step, but and there were these massively open online courses. You remember hearing about MOOCs and the
Yeah.
promise of everybody being able to learn everything all the time. Well, the reality of this situation is it wasn't that engaging, it wasn't that effective. And most people in their personal lives, in learning and in their professional lives, they were not successful in that. And we got really busy just before the pandemic started with helping take that learning and make it blended learning. And so by that, I mean taking the e-learning part of it, but how do we wrap key elements in human contact, in the right amount of coaching and mentorship and live training mixed with asynchronous learning that would be delivered on an LMS. Um, and then when the pandemic started, and all of a sudden everyone went home and was doing this in this modality on Teams or Zoom or whatever, the wheels fell right off that because training and teaching, and let's face it, public speaking is hard, right?
Hmm.
Seinfeld has a joke that I love that I seem to bring up every time this topic I get anywhere near this topic, which is people's number one fear is public speaking. That means you'd rather be in the box than delivering the eulogy. Um, and I think we can also all admit that in our organizations, in our businesses, in our practices, most of the training is done by subject matter experts who know the topic rather than trainers who know how to train or who have been taught how to train or facilitators who have experience facilitating. A lot of the time we lean on subject matter experts to be that face and breathe breath into the content. And that can work in person. People can vote with their coffee cup, they can vote with their legs, they can vote with their eye contact. Then you put it in a situation where everybody's on camera and they're at home and they're disengaged and they're scared and many of them are sick. All these things combining to make it really obvious that that kind of training was not sufficient. So, what this training could have been an email is is a real thing that we have to filter for. Like we really have to think about that. And all that being said, I do think that there is a silver bullet in there. There is a magic solution, which is the right amount of asynchronous learning, the right amount of live learning, coaching, and training. And here's the key in my belief, with AI, to a certain extent now, definitely in the next 18 to 36 months. This training could have been an email. Those kinds of topics that are purely informational, I believe people today are already just asking their Gemini or their ChatGPT or whatever it is they're used to, help me with this. Why? Because it's a voice they're comfortable with, that they're familiar with, that probably already knows them. I think in the next few years, all of that kind of training will be pretty successfully, if not created by, like delivery will be supported, customization will be supported, like little bits of testing and feedback and ability to ask questions. Chatbots will find their way into all of our learning ecosystems that will help people with that asynchronous stuff. But it's still not sufficient. Just like in the early days, but even before COVID started, when people were doing everything asynchronous, it's not enough. People will need that human support, that connection. And guess what? What an amazing opportunity for leadership to provide that connection, to provide that support, to be there in the context of training and mentorship and coaching. But in reality, what are they doing? They're forming connection. They're building trust. They're modeling a human-centered approach that I think, because L&D people will be so much more efficient because they're leveraging AI tools, it will allow them to focus in that area. And let's face it, that's the hard thing to do. That's the thing that the subject matter expert who knows everything about this pen, and to the company that is building this pen, she or he can speak for hours. But the reality of the fact is everyone's scared or lonely or upset or whatever. That expert might not know what to do in that scenario.